So ChatGPT has seen the fastest adoption rate since TikTok with 13 million daily users, 500 billion words in training datasets and over 100 trillion parameters. It's really got us thinking, can you configure a custom PC using just AI? For those who don't already know, we consult, test, ship and service computers all over India with over 1,000 plus 5-star reviews. Now we've tried using ChatGPT4 for various use cases like video editing, machine learning and gaming. But there is one major issue. It doesn't know about most of the new components due to its 2021 data block. So asking for any sort of component suggestion kind of doesn't work. However, we could still try asking how to choose components for specific use cases. And that's what we did. Starting with how to choose a CPU for gaming on a low budget. Now the first point mentioned, we would check processor compatibility with motherboard, but we're pretty sure you'd have to choose your board based on your CPU and not the other way around. Anyways, it went on with points like clock speed, core count, brand, upgradability, which is technically correct. But there's a huge gap in understanding for context. Like the motherboard point we just saw, and the specification points are again technically correct. Core count and clock speed do affect your CPU performance, but which one helps in gaming and which one should you prefer on a low budget? Now these are all the questions that are actually important to know, and now due to major IPC improvements, both Intel and AMD CPUs with the same speed, clock speed and core count and still end up performing very differently. Now we asked just for fun if Threadripper or Quadro cards could be used for gaming, and this is where the technicality comes in handy. It very clearly mentions that they are not meant for gaming because they're actually not. It's surprisingly a different story with video editing though, specifically 4K timelining. It gives us a very valid points like 4K timelining doesn't require a very high-end build. True, to some extent. Processor is the most important. A 6 to 8 core CPU with 3.5 GHz plus clock speed. Not entirely the case. Higher clock speeds actually give a huge boost, especially when working with the timelines. For GPU, it replied with 2 to 4 GB when under a budget because it helps only with rendering, which is mostly true unless you're using DaVinci, which utilizes the processing power of the GPU to speed up your workflow. The same story follows for certain parts for Adobe series softwares. There are plugins and effects like stabilizers, 3D manipulation and plugins like Sapphire which will process faster with a beefier GPU. What I'm basically trying to tell you is that it doesn't give you the full picture and you have to be the one asking the right question and not the other way around. And finally, it's time for the most important question. How important is RGB? And the answer was as expected, not so much. Now moving on to machine learning. We decided to change our approach with this one by asking how to choose the most important component of a machine learning build, which is the GPU. And since it's an AI model, we slightly had our hopes on the higher side. But it was the same story all over again. In fact, by now, we could see it's just reusing paragraph from the previous prompt and almost looks like a low effort internet blog. Our final attempt was to give a budget and let it configure a PC. Something like our custom PC builder tool on our website. You will select a use case and your budget, and the configurator will automatically generate the best possible PC. Now the budget we chose was 1 lakh, and these are the suggestions. Now ChatGPT's database is limited to information prior to 2021. So let's try the ChatGPT that has access to live internet database. Yes, we are talking about the browser used to install Chrome. Bing. This is what Bing infused with ChatGPT suggested. That further proves why we just use it to install Chrome. So you can now use ChatGPT for configuring PC. Technically, yes, but at the same time, no. You can definitely use the component suggested, but for what's it worth, you can be getting so much better. It still has a ways to go, and that just means we get to keep our jobs for now. As India's highest rated custom PC builders, we ship builds all over the nation with expert consulting, testing, and doorstep delivery with 2 years of on-site service and lifetime tech support. We also have 3 stores in Hyderabad, Gurgaon, and Bangalore. Drop by to get in touch with the details in the description. Thank you for watching.